Welcome to the Sacred Birth Work and Business podcast, where sacred birth work meets soul-aligned business. I'm your host, Anna Lundqvist, a former midwife, now Sacred Birth Worker Mentor, business coach, and the founder of Sacred Birth International. My intention with this podcast is to inspire you to follow your birth worker calling and to step fully into your power and purpose and unapologetically claim your place as the feminine leader that you were meant to be in your life and community. Let's reclaim sacred birth work. Let's reclaim sacred business, and let's do it the feminine way. Let's begin. This December, I have something very special for you. If you are wanting to become a birth worker, or maybe you're already a birth worker wanting to deepen your knowledge and skills, then I have an early bird offer, $1,000 off the Sacred Birth Worker Mentorship this December only. Come and join me and a global sisterhood of sacred birth workers as we are reclaiming ancient women's wisdom, combining it with modern knowledge, and weaving the new sacred earth birth rebellion. Come and join us. You can grab the early bird offer this December at sacredbirthinternational.com, and I hope to invite many of you into our beautiful international sisterhood. Hi, Mia, and welcome to the Sacred Birth Work and Business podcast. How are you today?
Really good and really excited to have this conversation. So thank you for having me.
It's lovely to have you on. I've had the pleasure of having you on the Natural Birth podcast, sharing about your birth, your first baby's birth. You're pregnant again, hint, hint. And then I've had the pleasure of knowing you now for the past year through the Sacred Birth Worker Mentorship. You've come to my land for the gathering. We had some sacred time together in person, and I'm so glad to also now be inviting you onto the Sacred Birth Worker and Business podcast, where we dive on into the magic of birth work and business, for that matter, being self-employed women in the birth world. So, welcome. Before we dive on in today, I'd love to, well, not before, when we dive on in today, I would like to start with what was kind of the beginning for you. When did you start feeling the calling for birth work?
Yeah, so I actually have always been really interested about all women's wisdom and women's work, and I have been guiding women's circles for the last 7 years. And so it's a bit similar to your path, actually, from what I've heard through the times talking with you about your path. But I kind of was introduced to birth work through women's work and just working with women. And through that, I was feeling more and more that somehow birth is kind of such a transformational event in a woman's life, and it was such a pivotal point. And I really wanted to learn more about that as I was also preparing myself to have my own children. And so in 2022, I took my first doula training. That was in Guatemala. And it was really profound and beautiful. And I learned a lot through that, but it was only 85 hours, and it felt kind of like a teaser, it felt like just a little bit, giving me even more that desire to work with birth and be in the birth portal. But I felt like I wanted more knowledge, more embodiment of this role. And I also wanted to give birth myself before I actually served at births. So yeah, then last year I got pregnant and had a beautiful home birth in the water. That was such an empowering and transformational experience for me. And also at this time, I think it was just before I gave birth that I heard about the Sacred Birth Worker Mentorship. And I really knew quickly that it was for me and that I wanted to be part of that as well and to like dive into that approach to birth work even deeper. And yeah, that's kind of how it all unfolded for me.
Yeah, beautiful. I mean, you're not alone. A lot of women who come through to the Sacred Birth Worker Mentorship are doulas already, and just like you, looking for an even deeper training and more embodiment. So that resonates a lot with me. I understand where you're coming from. I also, of course, resonate with your story about being, a women's work facilitator, holding circles, and how it almost feels like this. That's how it felt for me, just this natural next step to, for me, step into midwifery, that became my path. But to, birth work, just it felt so intertwined with the sacred feminine, with just ancient women's business. It's just the spiral, the circle, the feminine, yeah, it's just, it fits. So I get that. I really get your origin as well, the story there. Um, and then I'm curious about, because a lot of women, you did mention that there's a part of you, you did the doula course kind of wanting this information and this understanding and this knowledge, and you wanted more. But you also felt that before you stepped into the birth portal, because everyone's so different here, right? You felt like you wanted to birth your own babies. And so I'm curious to dive a bit deeper into this and how you came to know. I mean, I know you're so intuitive, so I kind of know your answer here, but still, I want to ask you. So, how did you know, like when you were pregnant? Because you kind of came into my world through the natural birth course and like as a pregnant mama. And then I think it was literally just weeks after you applied for the mentorship. I was like, oh, here's this pregnant mama, which also I'm not unused to because there's a lot of women who come to the mentorship pregnant actually. So I want to tease out a bit more information about what was going on inside of you. Like you'd done the doula course, you'd done the natural birth course, you were pregnant, you were prepping for your own birth in just a few months. And then you're like, nah, I'm also going to dive on into this big, huge birth record training. So tell me about that.
I'm trying to really recall that time and to like remember how I felt then because I also had taken this prenatal yoga teacher training. And so I was holding yoga classes for pregnant women. And also, I'm doing my master's in art therapy, and I was holding like art therapy sessions for pregnant women. So I was very much like around pregnant women a lot and being pregnant myself. And in that, I really felt like soon I would want to activate the like doula or, birth portal part of my calling. And I don't remember that I was actively looking for a deeper training, but I just felt like somehow like I knew there was a step that I wanted to take before I felt fully ready to step into that. It felt like some kind of, yeah, like being a bit in a maze, in a labyrinth, and knowing that somehow, like before I can step out of this labyrinth, there's something else that I will connect with, but I didn't exactly know what it was. And I thought at first maybe it's just giving birth itself, which already is a huge part, I feel, for the embodiment, although it's not necessary. A lot of birth workers are wonderful, even though they haven't given birth themselves. But yeah, I was kind of open to seeing what would unfold around that. But then when I started hearing about the Sacred Birth Worker Mentorship, it kind of all fell into place. And I understood that that was the missing puzzle piece as well.
Mm.
So that's really how it came for me, I feel. It was really in that birth portal for myself and just hearing about it and knowing that that was the piece that I wanted to connect with even deeper.
Beautiful. I love how intuitive you are and how connected you are and how you really dare to follow your heart's kind of calling and longing and just like trusting the next step without knowing, you know, just really following. Like I love that about you so much. So Then you go on and you have your baby, and then you step into actually the mentorship starting. How many weeks or months postpartum were you when we actually began?
Did we begin in May? Was
Hmm.
it?
Hmm.
Yeah, so that would have been 4 months postpartum.
Yeah. And so I'm really curious about this because, of course, just as there's women who step in when they're pregnant, also I've had a lot of postpartum mamas. Even I know one of the women were, I think, 2 or 3 weeks postpartum when she applied,
Hmm.
which is fantastic. But how did you feel about stepping in at this? I mean, 4 months postpartum is, you're kind of coming out of that immediate, kind of really open, vulnerable, raw, you know, postpartum, and you're more, you know, 4 months in, you're kind of you kind of a bit more out of that. But still, it's a tender time. It's a very, how was it? How did you approach it? How was it for you to start this journey at that time? Yes, I'm so curious to know.
Um, I feel like I approached it, as you were saying, with a lot of trust and with this knowing that it was the right thing for me. So I felt that it was going to be a good match, even though it felt like kind of a big, like a big mission to go on when you've just given birth so recently. But I really trusted and felt that it would flow easily. And it was the case. I mean, at first, I remember that in most of our live calls, I was always breastfeeding and always had my baby with me in the wrap or like somehow having him on my body. And it's been really beautiful to see the evolution that, like, as the months went by, I found myself having more personal space to be focusing on the mentorship without necessarily always having my baby with me or on me. But actually, even in the first part of the mentorship where I was always with my baby, it didn't clash at all. Somehow it felt very compatible. And there is this aspect in the mentorship as well that it's quite self-paced. Like um, it is thorough in the sense that you're invited to do these self-assessments and to kind of like keep yourself accountable for staying up to date, but it's also not like super strict dates that you have to respect. It's kind of more flowing. So I definitely see that in the beginning, I was more kind of doing what I can and usually being a bit behind on the content, but I was still integrating it at my own pace. Listening to the lessons while I was strolling my baby in the street or like just walking with him in the baby carrier. And it, like, of course, the content itself was very much compatible with motherhood because um, it's like pretty much everything that we learn is such a confirmation of my own mama wisdom and my own experience in giving birth physiologically. Um, so it just felt like a kind of deeper dive into the experience that I was already having in my everyday life, but then it's a kind of um, yeah, like um, cognitive confirmation in a way because it's actually like all this knowledge that's confirming my experience. So it was a very good match, I feel, actually, with being in the postpartum phase. And I feel that for me, it was also supportive of my postpartum time, like being um, like a mama who moved to a different country. So I don't have my family or like long term close friends living with me here in Norway where I moved. And so having this community with the all the beautiful life calls that we have was very supportive in that process as well. And there's something about the community that we weave through the mentorship that's it's not only through the actual calls, but even when we're not on the calls, we feel this sense of connection and of understanding, and we can share through the portal as well our experiences. So yeah, it was very nourishing for that period, actually.
Beautiful. I love that. And that is the feedback I've gotten from a lot of postpartum mamas through the mentorship too, that it's been supportive with the community as you're even in super early postpartum, lying there breastfeeding at night, and you can chat with people from the other side of the world who are up, or you can have these, yeah, and you can dive on into this big passion of yours and fill your life with that at the same time as being super present as a mama. Um, which a lot of times you spend that time breastfeeding in bed or, as strolling or and to have that adult kind of inspiring conversation at the same time.
Yeah, definitely. And also, I loved how during our life calls, a lot of the mamas were breastfeeding or having like toddlers running around. So that felt very validating as well to, yeah, to just see that reality being reflected and how it's possible and beautiful actually to be like learning more about your passion and really living your dreams as you are living motherhood, and it's compatible, and it actually, in my experience, it goes very well together when it's something that's really aligned with your values and with your heart and your soul purpose.
Yeah. I mean, I think for a lot of women, they might have the longing to dive into birth work for a long time. Maybe it awakens as they're pregnant, like yourself, or even before, or during postpartum. But that many hold themselves back through the toddler years or the childbearing years and think, when my kids are older, then I'll do this. Um, and I understand that, and for some that's true, but I really believe that you can find your way and your own expression of doing this work in the world that suits all stages of your life as woman and as motherhood. Um, you can choose to be in real life, you can have online, you can't, I mean, I know some who are really already in the first year postpartum wanting to attend births, and some who want to wait and more work in the pregnancy or the postpartum space, maybe even the conception, women's circles, and so on and so forth. You can apply this knowledge to where it suits you in your life and how you want to show up as mother, as businesswoman, as birth worker. And so I wonder what your thoughts about this are. For women who might say, oh, I should really wait until, life is more, you know, I have more time, or the kids are older, or, fill in the blank. What would you say to them?
Mm. Yeah, I do feel that it's such an individual process, and for each woman, the right answer will be different. That it's really about tuning in with what feels truly like loving yourself at this part of your life, what feels like a gift to yourself. And for some women, that may be to just focus fully on motherhood and have that being the centerpiece of their experience for those years. And for some women, such as myself, it actually fuels me so much to also connect with projects and passion and this this work that I feel so strongly about and that really lights my soul on fire. So um, I feel that for each woman, it's going to be a different answer, but it's about following what really feels like the most nourishing and juicy and like what's really inspiring to you at this point in your life. And I believe that if you do feel like birth work is calling you um, now and you want to step into it now, even though you're freshly postpartum or pregnant or having a toddler, I see that it's definitely possible to live all of those experiences at the same time. And it's just to respect your own pace. So finding a way to, um, well, as you were saying, maybe it's not taking births right away if that doesn't feel so aligned with your schedule. But there's so much that you can already do that is a bit more predictable in your schedule. Like if you want to hold mama blessing ceremonies, or if you want to do more postpartum work, or hold mama circles, or there's so many options of what you can do already in this space. And probably a lot of women as well even attend births when they have like when they're in that postpartum period. It hasn't been my experience, so I can't really speak to that, but I believe that it's possible as well if that feels really aligned and that's what's calling you the most.
Yeah. Yeah. And it all depends on what kind of support system you have and all of that. I mean, some of the women in this mentorship have had, their partners come with the baby to breastfeed in the hospital as she's attending a birth there or in the home, navigating the needs of her baby and, her attending births. And I mean, not everyone's going to have that kind of support. So it's of course it's going to look different for everyone. Just like you said, I think what I really want to get at is when there is this kind of preconceived ideas or you're locked in kind of in a the logic of it all, like how will I make it work logically, or you're not, like you so beautifully are explaining how you're following the heart and like your intuition and what feels right, to really trust that and not the fears potentially from you know your mind or your logic that goes, but it should look like this, or I've always worked 9 to 5, and so how will I, or all these things. So because I truly feel like when the birthwork gene gets activated, because I feel like it's this remembering happening, and it happens for everyone at different times. Like, and I've spoken previously about this on this podcast that, for some it is when you're a maiden, you're in your 20s, and you just, like you said, like you're in women's work, or you're just so fascinated about woman and birth and anatomy, or anatomy, or just how magical we are, and you just want to learn everything just because you're curious, right? It activates early, or it can activate when you're 60. Right? Like we have a beautiful woman in your cohort who's in her 60s who became a midwife really late and then became now a sacred birth worker and diving into this work late as a maga, like, and everything in between, right? So there's, when it activates. And I wish for those women who have the activation to not fear it, but to follow it. There's magic and there's wisdom and there's gifts in this activation, and don't get stuck in the fear-based mental realms. Follow that.
For sure. And I feel like a big key as well is to kind of unlearn that the only way of working or of doing business is the masculine way,
Mm.
because you're operating from those beliefs and that way of perceiving work, then of course it's going to be very hard to conciliate motherhood and birth work. But if you can really sink into and connect deeply with your feminine rhythms and let that be the guiding light for your work as well, um, that will make such a huge difference and will make it a lot more sustainable and more nourishing on every level as well.
Totally. I don't think it's possible to thrive in birth work in any way, shape, or form, if you don't start deconstructing these. And I think we all hold them more or less. It's, I think, easier for women like us, you and me, who've done women's work before even stepping into birth work. It's already like we're sitting in circles, we're, applying these feminine principles, and it is night and day. And our world is very masculine. And so it is a lot of like rewiring to happen. And because as a birth worker, if you are attending the birth portal especially, you're in the feminine flow of life, right? You're in the flow of birth, of the great mystery. You're totally in the feminine. Like there's nothing masculine about birth work at all if you're not working in the hospital system, shift work, kind of obstetrician, midwife, nurse, that kind of thing. But as an independent birth worker, employed by the woman, are going to follow her rhythm, like it's all feminine. And so your whole life, it becomes a lifestyle. You flow in and out of quote unquote work when you're on, when you're off. It is super feminine. And so I guess, yes, I mean, that's truly it, isn't it? It's the thing about realizing as you follow this calling, you're stepping onto a very ancient feminine path that has, there's no other kind of line of work like it, really. It just isn't. And it's also what makes it so just addictive and fantastic and magical and all of that, right? So, my next question is, during the mentorship, you also became pregnant with your second bubsy. So I think halfway through, right? Like 3 or 4 months in, you found out you're pregnant just a week or so before our gathering, I think, and
Mhm.
this summer. And so you really have had the experience now of studying birth work before becoming pregnant, diving deeper through your postpartum with your first, and now also being pregnant as you're finishing up this birth worker training with me. So how has it been if you zoom out right now, because we are coming to the close in just a couple of weeks here for the Sacred Birth Worker Mentorship that you're in. Like, how has this mentorship and diving into birth work at this depth in this kind of way, how has that served you as postpartum? You kind of touched on now as pregnant, um, and how are you moving through it now as you're in your third month, maybe?
Yeah, 17 weeks,
Hmm.
something like that. Mm. Hi, yeah, I love this question. Mm, I feel like, well, I was always very passionate about natural pregnancy and birth. So even in my first pregnancy, I felt this strong resonance with the process that I found myself in. But I feel that even deeper for sure in this pregnancy. I feel this real sense of excitement about this process and also about my upcoming birth. I feel really, really, really well surrounded and well supported in this process as well, near and far, but also by all the mentees in the group and just by the kind of collective a web of energy that we're weaving through this mentorship. I feel so held by that and I feel really well resourced. Um, Also in all the knowledge that I gained, that of course is really, really profound, and all the embodiment that I gained as well. Um, I like as I was saying, my first birth experience was a really beautiful home birth in the water. But actually, even if it was so beautiful, through the mentorship and through the things that we've been learning, I've also noticed some elements that I would like to experience differently this time around with this new birth. So, in a way, it helped me kind of revisit my first birth experience, and I still have as much appreciation and gratitude for it and feel that it was perfect the way it was. But also, I feel now inspired to explore a different approach. Like, for example, I really want to have a lotus birth this time. Um, yeah, that's one of the books that we read as well in the mentorship, and that I wasn't expecting to feel this strongly about. I actually, the first few times that I heard about lotus birth, I didn't connect that deeply with it, or just thought it wasn't for us. But now reading the book, had I just felt so deeply that I really feel um, yeah, that this baby is asking for this experience. It might be related as well to my first baby's cord that snapped when he was born, which was, very unexpected, but somehow that was his birth imprint and that's what he chose. But I feel really, really called to explore this lotus birth for this baby coming. Um, yeah, and somehow to claim that birth even more than the first one. Um, and like outwardly, it like someone who was witnessing this birth wouldn't necessarily see in like how was I not fully claiming it, but I feel like energetically now with everything that I learned, there is like a deeper um yeah, like a deeper claiming, a deeper like sovereignty that I'm really, really excited to explore in this upcoming birth. Mm, yeah, like a even more hands-off approach that I would love. And yeah, to trust my body even more, to trust the wisdom of birth even more. And mm, yeah, of course, the postpartum is a part that I want to do quite differently than my first time around. Um, yeah, we just learned so, so much in the mentorship about the postpartum time, and I feel really inspired about this idea of the first 40 days and how to really honor these first 40 days as a really sacred time for the mother and the baby to fully restore and like fully have that really quiet time to connect with each other and be really supported in that. And it's something that I want to invest more in by hiring a postpartum doula this time. Um, yeah, and I believe also that the lotus birth process will deepen that even more.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I feel so inspired. That's the main thing. If I had to like say it in one word, it's really inspired. I feel this sense of like bubbly, just love for all of this world, like the birth world and the everything that comes with it. I'm just so passionate about it and so fascinated with it, and definitely like being in the mentorship while being in the postpartum phase while being pregnant is just like such a culmination of like yeah, I just feel that I'm really like swimming and basking into the birth glory right now and just the sheer magic of that. um yeah, it feels really really yeah, beautiful and just so natural for me to be connecting with that.
Yeah. I love that so much. And that is truly my experience and how I feel too, that when you like we really do dive deep in all the things you just shared. And we spend a whole month like just diving into every little nook and cranny about physiological birth, right? Like it can be quite a short thing, but you can also go into like depth and detail. And I love that because I feel like when you have that deep understanding, there is something that just clicks. Like there's just this, I think, and I wish this for all women, not just birth workers, to have this depth of level of understanding, because there's something that just, like you just explained, I just feel it in every cell of my being, like this deep claiming of this right when you just understand it so deeply, so deeply, deeply, deeply. Both like with the mind, but just, yeah, also the embodiment. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. It was just, you put words to it, to the feeling I have. I love that. Mm.
Mm.
So you now hold the perspective of both having, now trained as a birth worker in different levels, both your doula training and now the sacred birth worker training, and having birthed one baby, carrying the next. Um, how has motherhood shaped or deepened the way you feel called to now serve women? Like having actually the lived experience of birthing, of mothering, and now pregnant again.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I feel like the main aspect and like the first one that comes to my mind instantly is how having had such a beautiful, empowering physiological birth experience, I really felt that it's so unfair and so um, just unacceptable that so many women around the world are getting robbed of that experience, really. And it's something that comes up all the time when I talk with women about my experience. It's so rare that I meet other women who had such an experience or that got to have a home birth or um, that even knew that that option existed. So I feel like that is a big part of it. This kind of having had that embodied experience, now I feel even more passionate about helping women at least know that it's possible for them to experience that. And that, yeah, that if that's a path that they're feeling called to, it's possible for them. Um, and I think that, my I have the impression that after everything I've learned about the physiology of birth, it is. a lot easier to have these experiences at home
Mm.
because the physiology will be upheld a lot more by being in a place that's already so safe and known to you, where you get to control the lighting and to have a sense of who's there and to know everyone that's in the space with you. So, of course, that is, um, yeah, kind of the gold standard for physiology. But then, as well, it's so important that a woman feels deeply and truly safe in her birth space. So, if for her that's the hospital, then it's also possible um, to have such an empowering experience there. But that's where the role of the sacred birth worker really is so necessary to really uphold that physiology and be a voice for her in moments where she's not able to, or just even shouldn't be having to defend herself and fight for her rights and for physiology to be upheld. So yeah, it's kind of um, this desire to awaken women to the power of birth and that they really can access that. It's such a transformational life event. Like we can never emphasize that enough. It is like definitely I know for sure in my cells and my bones that when I die, my births are going to be like the main, one of the main key elements of my life that will flash before my eyes. It's so crucial in our lives. Um, so yeah, that's a huge part of it. And then I also feel like there is this kind of natural compassion that awakens even deeper when you become a mother yourself, that you kind of notice mothers in a different light, like just on the street, like you'll see a woman with a stroller and you kind of just look at each other and you're like, yeah, I know what you're going through, mama. Somehow there's this kind of recognition that even though each woman will experience it differently, of course, but there is this kind of really deep resonance that we have, and that really inspires me as well. I notice, mm, yeah, this lived experience of motherhood does really deepen your love and compassion for mothers a lot. I feel. Um, yeah, and also the desire for mothers to be treated respectfully and to be treated like to be helped to have the best possible start to their motherhood experience, like how to optimize the chances of them having a smooth start that will then have such a huge impact on their whole breastfeeding journey and motherhood journey. And even later into their lives, it will continue to have such a huge impact how they gave birth,
Mm.
and how their pregnancy was and how the early postpartum was. It just ripples out into all aspects of one's life.
Yeah, and ultimately humanity, like, right? The family unit, the community. Like it's really, it doesn't stop with the woman, and her experience because she then will affect everyone in her own environment and beyond, right? So it's birth is everything. How we birth is everything, and how we experience and are treated both throughout pregnancy, birth, and of course the pivotal time postpartum. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I'm so curious now, as a, mother and soon mother of two little ones, like so close together too. Um, what are your visions for the future? So right now, what are you offering the world right now as a beautiful birth worker? And what are you seeing for the year and the years ahead? What's the vision?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so right now, as I'm pregnant and have my 10 months old son, I am, as I mentioned, I'm doing my master's in art therapy. And so now I'm holding a beautiful prenatal art therapy group with 10 women. And that has been over the last 7 weeks, and we meet every week. And so these sessions are a blend of childbirth education and sharing circles and mindfulness practices, a bit of prenatal yoga, and then art therapy. So it's kind of a blend of all of these approaches together. And those are actually so nourishing for me to hold. And I see that it's so beneficial for the women as well. So just to have these spaces to connect with other pregnant women and to truly um, open up about what they're authentically feeling, and to have a space to ask questions as well and to share their experiences and express themselves. I feel that's so important. And um, mainly that community aspect, I feel, is really crucial. So that's, um, yeah, that really inspires me to bring these spaces for mamas and pregnant mamas to connect with each other. Um, yeah, so that's what I'm doing now. And I'm also holding mama blessing ceremonies. Now I have one next week coming up. Um, so yeah, that's mainly what I'm doing now. But I am also looking forward to expand within that, to also offering closing of the bones ceremonies. Um, and yeah, at the moment, I feel that those three are kind of the main um, offerings that feel really aligned to offer right now. Also, circles. So I continue to hold these women's circles, but also I want to focus more on circles for mamas. So I think it will probably be um, for mamas on any part of their journey, whether they're trying to conceive, whether they're pregnant, whether they're postpartum or have older children as well. Um, yeah, that would be something I feel really valuable to bring to the world. Mm.
Beautiful. I love that. And then, of course, early next year, you're stepping into the depth of birth and early postpartum again before you come out of that cycle. Is there a long-term vision right now, or are you just being in the now? Do you hold something that you see in the future?
Yes, so I also really want to hold space for births, but I feel that for me, what feels aligned is to wait until we'll see how it flows, but I'm having the idea that it's going to be around when my next baby is maybe more or less 6 months. Since until then, I plan to be exclusively breastfeeding. So then, yeah, it's hard to exactly know how it's going to be because each baby is so different. But I saw with my son that there was a shift around that time where I felt like, okay, now somehow it's possible to have a bit more space and I can focus a bit more on my projects. And my baby feels happy staying more with my husband. So if this tendency is the same for the next baby, then I would love to start holding space for births around that time. So
Yeah.
that would be, I guess, sometime, yeah, sometime in 2026.
Yeah, beautiful. Yes, whenever it feels right for you. I mean, I heard just yesterday of a birth photographer who went to birth 6 weeks postpartum and had her baby sleeping in the next room, like breastfed her baby. We're attending the birth, kind of popping in and out with her baby, having her baby on the boob as she was like serving. There's so many different ways that you can do this line of work. For some, it's going to be when the baby's 6 years old. Like it's going to be so anywhere in between, whatever feels right. However, you like who you are as a person, who you are, what kind of clients you're attracting, what kind of really paradigm you're living in or mindset or just how you flow through everything. So, Ah, thank you so much for sharing your kind of vision around that. And I'm sure you'll see who your baby is and what they need.
Yeah. And I'm also really passionate about the more educational side, like childbirth education. And I've been really loving that part of the art therapy sessions.
Mm.
So, like diving deep into some topics related to pregnancy and birth and postpartum, and like both offering knowledge, but also opening spaces for women to share how they feel about this topic and what ideas they have about this and what are their view of this. So this is also something that I am stepping into now and that I want to step deeper into and that I feel is compatible with this phase of my life. So I see myself continuing to weave that um, in yeah until this more like birth portal time opens up for me. Um,
Beautiful. I love that combination. Art therapy is such a blessing, such a powerful, beautiful way of deepening into wisdoms within yourself and hidden messages and things you can express through that.
Yeah, it really is. And also when I was reading the book Birthing from Within, which also like connects all these different aspects with childbirth education, mindfulness, and also art therapy, even they don't call it that, but they call it birth art. That felt so in resonance with what I'm passionate about. So yeah, I really love that approach and wish to bring this to the world here. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. Is there anything, any message you'd like to send our listeners away with? Maybe they are already birth workers, maybe they are aspiring ones, maybe they're mothers, maybe they're pregnant, maybe they're maidens that are thinking about becoming pregnant. Is there anything that you would like to finish this conversation off with?
Yeah, I would really say follow your bliss. I really love this quote. I think it's from Rumi. I just really resonate with that and find that to be such a powerful anchor. And yeah, if you can follow what really makes you feel alive and what makes you feel um, like you're really living your life's purpose and mission, and taking the time to really sit with yourself and unravel all the layers until you find what's actually your calling, like what's the flavor of your calling. Maybe it has like maybe it's a combination of different parts of your path that you're already on now, and maybe there's like new ways of combining these fields that will be unique to you and to your own practice. And if there's anything that feels out of alignment or that feels not in resonance, perhaps that's because it's not meant to be part of your journey.
Mm.
Sometimes, and I feel that's part of the masculine paradigm we're talking about, we feel like, oh, life comes with suffering, or like life comes with um, like misalignment. It's just part of life. You have to deal with it. And there is a part of that that is true, of course, and that holds wisdom, but as well, when it's about like finding your own mission in life and really like creating um, your dream job and your dream mission, I feel that that's it doesn't have to be part of your story to like hate some parts of your job, you know. If there is such a thing, maybe as I was saying, yeah, it's because that part is not meant for you. So it's kind of really following your bliss, following your heart, and finding what is that like unique flavor that
Mm.
actually really speaks to you, and dare to be unique and original with that and pave your own way.
Yeah, I love this message. And as you're speaking this, it just comes to me like how, for example, both in the mentorship, but also now in the business course for birth workers, how these alignments of like previous work with birth work has come together. Like one example that comes to me that's like was not something that this beautiful woman was thinking about was how her work in accounting could come together with birth work through her like, money course for mamas. Like, so what you're just saying is like you broaden your mind and be open to that all like everything in your life has had its purpose, and like whether it's been through suffering and you didn't think it was an alignment or not, like be open to like if I brought all of the wisdom that I and knowledge I've learned from everything I've gone through, and whether it's work or not, and professions or not, like is there medicine that I could create something now? Like you're doing so beautifully with combining all of your work in like art therapy, now birth work and women's circle. It's all coming together for you, and yoga, like it's different. You could just be a yoga teacher, right? You could just be art therapist, but you're bringing it all under this umbrella that is so uniquely your thing. And that is what I think that is the way to go forward. That is the new, I think, new way of doing things in our world. It's really, finding our unique expression. So every birth worker is going to take a different path. That's also the fantastic thing. It's like if you just look on your cohort, everyone's going to go out and do different things in different areas of what we can do as birth workers. And yeah, it can serve everyone in every way, shape, or form.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and there is no one way to do.
Mm,
That's kind of the message I want to share. It's not like, okay, if I'm going to be a birth worker, I have to be this model of like serve for example all kinds of births, or do like you get to choose. This is your life and this is your path, and you get to combine the disciplines and fields that you're passionate about,
mm.
create your own unique blueprint with that.
Yes. Remembering the wise woman you're embodying, the birth worker, the midwife, the midwitch, the witch, what is her medicine? What is your true medicine that you're bringing to the world
Mhm.
through this calling, you
Yeah.
know? Mm. Thank you so much, Mia, for this conversation. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening. If you love this podcast, then please share the love on your podcast app by leaving a comment or pop over to our Instagram at Sacred Birth International. I'd love to connect there. If you'd like to know more about the Sacred Birth Worker Mentorship or the business course for birth workers, then head on over to sacredbirthinternational.com to learn more. Thank you for listening.